Welcome to Engineer Her Path podcast. I'm Sandra Park, the host and financial coach. I empower women in STEM to take control of their lives, careers, and finances. Today, I'm excited to have my speaking coach that I found from LinkedIn. His name is Keith Bailey. He will be talking about communication and speaking, and he has forever changed the way that I communicate and speak. Enjoy. Hello, Keith. How are you?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic.
We actually talked about doing this last year, and we're finally making it happen right now.
It's cool. It's my first time doing LinkedIn Live, which is kind of mind boggling, given that I do so much live content. I've just to see where you've gone from the time that we started to now. The fact that you've picked this whole thing up doing LinkedIn Live, and I've become the student.
Yeah, it's so funny because I remember last year I was trying to convince you. I said you should do more LinkedIn Lives because that was actually what I started doing in the beginning. And we'll get into it. For me to get comfortable with speaking on camera, I was doing some LinkedIn Lives that no one was watching. And then after a while, I was like, well, just start recording them and having a show and then inviting other people on once I got more confident. But I'll start with introducing you a little bit. So this is Keith Bailey, DTM, who is also my speaking coach that I hired from LinkedIn. So that's the other reason why I want to have you on here, because I really want to show people that LinkedIn is a great place to hire other people, especially like niche and different types of coaches that, I mean, even a year ago, I didn't know a speaking coach even existed, right? Some of these other types of coaches, you don't always think about hiring, or who do you get to help you with certain skills and things that you need to get better at very quickly. And I met you through LinkedIn because I had a big speech that I was preparing for, and I had never really given a speech in front of, well, I've given speeches before, maybe in front of 20 people or 15 people, or spoken a little bit at work, but this was a conference with a lot of people. And I'm eternally grateful for all the coaching and everything I learned from you. And I wanted to have a chance to talk more with you about it with my audience of women in STEM and the whole coaching process and speaking and how to, and even just not just speaking, I think everyone can learn how to communicate better.
Yeah. I want to add on to what you shared, the fact that you went onto LinkedIn and you went and looked for a coach and you got a coach. For me as a LinkedIn user, as a business professional who utilizes LinkedIn for networking and for sharing content and for building relationships, it was such a joy to make that connection, because you oftentimes you put information in here and you follow people and you post articles and you like people's stuff and you comment on, you do all the things you're supposed to do, and this will generate business for you. It's not until moments like this where you end up having that connection. Because I remember I saw that you had gone on to my LinkedIn page. You'd reviewed it. You hadn't left me I'm not sure if you left me a comment or not, but you can see who's looked at your page. And I saw that you had, and I think you were a third, like a distance from me, a third. And I remember following up with you, say, hey, I saw you looking at my page. Is there anything particular you're looking for? And we got into a little bit of a messaging dialogue. And I shared with you, I was like, well, if you're looking for someone to help you with coaching, let's connect and chat. If I'm the right fit, awesome. If not, then at least I can point you in the right direction of somebody else within this industry, because I know a lot of professional speakers and speaking coaches, and help you find that right fit. And I think that's just such a lovely story in that, yes, LinkedIn does work, especially when you utilize it in the way that it's intended to. So it's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you, Sandra. You are one of a very unique subsect of clients that I've worked with. And there's one word that truly defines you: implementation. When working with a coach, especially as a coach, and I've been coached as well, is that you're like, oh, you want to try these things? You should try this. You should try Toastmasters. It's something that I recommended to you. Like, it gives you a place. It's a platform. You can practice these things. And you're like, oh, okay. 9 times out of 10, the people are like, oh, okay, that's cool. And they don't implement. You immediately went out, like, I found these couple places, I've tried this out, and you've joined Toastmasters. Are you still going to Toastmasters?
Yes. Oh, and a big update. I was the Toastmaster for the very first time last time. I was
That's
super
awesome.
excited because if you think about it, I started in August. I don't know if that's rather quick or not. I feel that is, or maybe for my club it is, to be the Toastmaster within, I don't know, 6 months or so. There are other members who, I don't know how it worked out in the rotation. I'm not going to read any significance into that, but I thought, oh, it's really quick that I got to be the Toastmaster. And I was the Toastmaster at the very first meeting of the new year. And I did
Wow.
a really good job. I was excited. I mean, I'm not bragging on myself. I was pretty nervous and it went really, really well. And I'm actually going to do a speech next week. It's going to be my last speech in the PM level 1. So I'm excited about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, you're wrapping that up as well.
Yeah, yeah. And you also reminded me about the LinkedIn story because I remember when you reached out, what I did was I just lurked on a bunch of different speaking coaches. I went and followed a bunch of them, and I was intending to just lurk for a while and just follow people's content. But I think when we're talking about it, I was noticing people, well, especially speaking coaches, they do not post very much content at all. So I was expecting people to post free tips or do little videos and things like that. So they're all sleeping on LinkedIn. There's nobody posting or doing anything. So I was kind of surprised because usually once you add like a subsect of different professionals, you can kind of feel them out by their free content that they're posting, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So it's so nice that you reached out. But yeah, that is really a good point about coaching. The people who like will listen to the stuff, but then who actually goes and implements it. And it's interesting because there are even times, of course, and I mean, there are times where I kind of doubted you too, or some of the advice you gave. But if I was doing everything so well, then I don't need to hire anybody. I'll be giving the speech. Right? Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, tell us a little bit more about how you got into it, or just even about your speaking journey, even before how
Hmm.
you started getting into coaching and all that.
Yeah. I had a seminal moment in the fourth grade with a teacher who was just so kind and caring and patient and very encouraging. I'd moved to the United States about a year before that, and I knew yes and no. So I was learning. I was a little Dutch boy, and I was learning the language. And she was just so kind, and we had to deliver a book report. And I was really nervous about this book report. And I remember her just taking additional time with me and just being there for me. And then I stood before the class and I delivered this book report. And at the end of it, she was so, you could just see how proud she was. And she took me by the hand. She asked me, she's like, would you like to give the book report to the third graders? I was like, oh my God, the third. Yeah, I'd love to do that. And I did the third graders. And then she's like, you want to deliver it to the fifth graders, Mrs. Smart's class. I was like, that would be incredible. And that moment for me just cemented my love and passion for public speaking. And I know that's unique because most people I talk to are like, I hate it. It's so scary. And the thing is, it still frightens me from time to time. It still makes me incredibly nervous. But just like what you've done and the things that we've worked on together is you say the words out loud, you practice it, you visualize it, you get in the reps. So when you take that stage, all those nerves can just do what they want to do because you've prepared yourself
Yeah.
to deliver the best version of yourself at that time. And those nerves are something that really help propel you. It's a human reaction. We're not supposed to have that many eyeballs staring at us without
Right.
feeling hunted.
Oh, that's a good word. That's a good word.
Yeah.
That is a really good word.
Like everybody's hunting me. So that for me was a pivotal moment, and I've always found my way to that stage. And then about a decade ago, I decided to just become more intentional about public speaking. I joined Toastmasters, and Toastmasters is the place where you go to practice speaking. And it's a belief system that came out of that for me is professional athletes spend more time scrimmaging and reading the playbook than they ever do playing the actual game. We as business professionals, we are professional speakers because our job pays us money to use words to share ideas and to move people to action. That's a professional speaker. We get paid money for this. If you want to become a really good professional speaker, well, then you put yourself into a state of practice. And for me, that's what Toastmasters has been for a decade. I've been at it. I just achieved a very high distinction, which is known as the Distinguished Toastmaster. I achieved that this year. And I didn't join Toastmasters for that purpose. It's just by applying yourself and doing all the things, you will eventually end up getting to that point where you've achieved that. And that's because of the practice. So that was a really important time for me 10 years ago. And then 5 years ago, I was working in corporate America, and I was kind of tired of having the same conversation. I was helping a lot of other people that I worked with their presentations. And then I just decided that it was time to make a change. So I left corporate America with the intention of helping prevent unintentional audience abuse. Because as an audience member, when you sit, the audience wants one thing. They want the speaker to win. Everybody in that audience is rooting for you, right? Even though those eyes feel like they're hunting you, what they're really doing is they're looking at you like, you're doing something that frightens me. I hope you win. And when we as speakers don't win, meaning give the audience the gift of our message, when we don't win, we're unintentionally hurting them. In that is if you have a PowerPoint that has all the words you're going to read to them, they're not third graders. When you turn your back to them, when you and so, or talk just in data points, tell a story. Tell the audience why this is so important to you, because when you share that story, they're able to buy into that, right? They have that emotional connection to you now. So I left corporate in 2018. The pandemic was a very special place because it was actually a great thing. For your entrepreneurs out there, imagine your second year in business and suddenly your entire business gets wiped out, and you get brought back to the drawing board and you have to refigure everything out. For us, it was a great time because we created some programs and a few modules, but we had a chance to go back and retool them and recreate them and refine them and actually create them for this realm here, the Zoom box. And it brought an additional skill set into our business where we can deliver the same programs and services in person as we can virtually. So coming out of the pandemic, it's been a lot of fun, just building a business, working with business professionals like yourself.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And I didn't know that it was more recent, your your journey. I thought you'd been doing it for decades or something, but
no, I am a serial entrepreneur in that I've started other businesses and I've murdered them. I know where the bodies are buried, but the primary reason why the entrepreneurial businesses I had in the past failed is because in the business, it was just me. And I'm really good at what I do. And I'm really bad at the things that I don't like to do because I tend to not do them. And those are the things that make a business. So if you're an entrepreneur looking to get into this, understand your strengths and you want to make sure you double down on your weaknesses, which is why I have 2 business partners. I like working in small teams. One of my business partners, she is an integrator. If you're into EOS, you'll understand what an integrator is. And she is truly the business. I'm the product. I do the talking.
You're the speaker. You're the, It's the same thing with financial coaches. It's so funny because everyone's so passionate about financial coaching, and I want to help people with their finances. Like, if you can't do the bookkeeping, if you can't get new clients, if you can't market yourself, it's the stuff people don't want to do. If you can't do social media, so they just want to just coach, but that's not really a business unless you know that many people that want to pay for your coaching.
Yeah. I went through a program here in Colorado called the Colorado Speakers Academy, and where Toastmasters is all about the words you say, the Colorado Speakers Academy is a subsect of the National Speakers Association, and they teach you the business of being a professional speaker, how to build that business. And I remember sitting in the front row, and it was a gentleman by the name of David Avrin, who is a global speaker, and he speaks on marketing, and he's just, look him up on LinkedIn. The man is brilliant. And he's standing before us, and he says, he's like, what I'm about to share with you, a lot of people really don't like it when I say this, but I feel like you need to know this. You are not in the speaking business. You are in the booking gigs business. Your job is to book gigs so you can deliver your product, which is the speaking piece. And that's the same thing for anybody who's an entrepreneur, is that the product is the result of booking the business. So as a financial planner, you're in the getting clients business. You're into booking gigs business.
Yes.
And that's such Exactly. It's such an important distinction because, for professional speakers, like, oh, I have to share my truth. I have to share this with the world. Yes, but unless you're booking gigs that pay you money so you can continue to do this, it's a hobby, and there's nothing wrong with having a hobby, but you're
Right.
not a professional speaker.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. No, I totally agree. And we struggle with that too, because I guess it's any business that's kind of built on a passion, right? You're like, I just want to do that, but that doesn't
Hmm.
pay the bills, right? Or bring in business or clients and
Yeah.
all. Who do you like to work with the most? Like, who's your ideal client? If you have one, if you don't, that's fine too.
Yeah. I love working with business professionals who have, like you. Let's use you as an example.
Okay, good.
Somebody who has a deadline for a presentation coming up, and whether you've got the presentation built and you want to refine it, or like what we did is we built it from scratch. You had
Yeah,
an idea, we sat down, we collected all this information, and to start shaping it and forming it and bringing stories in, and then getting into that rehearsal process to where we're working to a specific deadline. I've had in the past where I've had clients and we just sit and talk theory of speaking and they're not actually applying it. And that's, for me as a coach, that it's fun. I can talk theory all day long, but I like, for me, what really drives me is working with somebody who has a deadline and the stakes are high. Like, I have to nail this presentation. And when we think about speaking, I'd like to think about it in the Shakespearean, all the world is a stage. And as a business professional, there's several stages that we need to take and be proficient at. The kind that you did, it was speaking at a conference. It's a very specific stage. But as business professionals, we deliver in the boardroom, at team huddles, team meetings, networking. Networking is a huge stage. One of my business partners, Elise Bloom, she's had a networking business for like the last decade, and her entire focus is helping you realize an RON, a return on your networking. You're making this investment. What are you getting out of it, right? What is your strategic plan going into this, right? Strategic plan shouldn't be, well, I'm going to do this networking event so because they have an open bar. And that is not a strategy that's going to bring you a positive return on your networking. So what's the planning phase? What's the engaging phase? What's the nurturing phase? So working with real life business professionals on their real life speaking platforms is really what we focus on. And we do this one-on-one, just like you and I did. We also do a lot of cohorts. So working within business units, bringing cohorts together and then taking them through a process, having a deliverable, have them come back, report on it, refine, and to keep moving forward with that. And then I also speak at a lot of events. I do keynotes on storytelling as a primary focus of mine. And then we lead breakout sessions so people actually can do the hands-on work and try it. Because if you're going to be a speaker, this is what's the big thing we worked on, Sandra. Like, if there's one tip that I have for everybody, it's say the words out loud.
Yes, and I agree. That made a huge, huge difference. It's one thing to read it or to say it in your head, but then to say the words out loud is entirely different. And then the videoing was even worse, but had to be done. And the practice is way worse than the real thing. Well, that's good to know. I wasn't sure. It's funny. I told people I hired a speaking coach, and a lot of people thought that was very overboard. But I don't really regret it because I never really spoke. So how would I get to that deadline for the big, and I got a lot of kudos. I got a lot of really good feedback. I had so many people tell me afterwards. I know we hadn't talked since like the end of the year. I had people write me that was the best talk they went to at the entire conference. That was like the only thing that, they had actionable takeaways, how much it impacted them. So on one hand, I was thinking when I was getting up to it, I was like, did I over prepare? And maybe I shouldn't have hired a coach. But I'm thinking like, why would someone not do that for something really big and important and all that? And yeah, it is so funny how people thought that was unusual, but maybe because I also am a coach too.
Mm.
I just see it as if there's something that you need to get good at rather quickly, or you need to speed
Yeah.
up that learning curve. Why would you not hire someone that's a little further along and that can guide you and assist you?
Yeah, it's for the same reason we're not raised to really fully understand money, yet we need to have a good investment portfolio. I don't know the first thing about that. So if that is an important thing to me, I'm going to hire a financial planner, somebody who's an expert in this that can help just speed up the learning curve. I
Yeah.
think that's a big part of it, is that speeding up of the learning curve. Because the things that we worked on will forever, like it's an investment you made in self, because the things we worked on, you can take that and apply it to the next presentation and to the next
Yeah.
presentation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did. And I gave the presentation in different variations. Remember, right after that, and more times throughout the end of the year, I have more speeches lined up for this year. But you're right. It's really an investment in myself. And I remember when we were working on the speech for so long, because I have a parallel, because I have a coaching client recently that I felt like she was kind of like doubting me a little bit. And it was interesting because then I remember back to our coaching, and I'm not saying I was like doubting you, but I was getting to the point where it's like, when are we writing this speech? It's been a while. Like we're still just talking, you know? But I realized it takes a long time to get to know someone. And I didn't have the speech very well formed, what I wanted to say, right? And that takes a while, right? And just understanding how long that process can be. And I applied that with someone else. And it was interesting because I was like, you know, that was my chance to be the person being coached and kind of thinking like, shouldn't we already have this done by now? Or shouldn't it be a quicker process?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But it'll be forever quicker, like you're saying, anytime I do have to construct a new speech from scratch, because went through a lot of those growing pains and how to put together a speech. Yeah.
Yeah. Figure out what's, we talked about first identifying who the audience is. Like who's going to be sitting in that room. And that took us some time, because there's a couple of different age ranges of people that are at a different part of the journey when it comes to their financial journey. So it was identified like, well, who's the primary audience who you really want to share this message with. So identifying that piece, and then getting into, because we suffer from what Dan and Chip Heath of Made to Stick called the curse of knowledge. I think that's the most difficult thing. It's like, well, we know all these things. We should be sharing all that with everybody. And that's not how learning happens. So really dialing into what does the audience really need to know? What does they want to know? And then that part of what's that 10%, right? 1 week later, after you're done speaking and they've forgotten most of what you've said, what's that 10% piece, that actual piece that resonates with them? And that's where I think as a speaker, we need to think about it. That when we take that stage, it's no longer about us. It's not about me. It's about the audience. And what are the gifts that we're giving that audience? So the fact that you're getting all this follow through and follow up, and you're getting booked additional gigs, is because you stood on that stage and you didn't make it about Sandra Park. You made it about the audience, and you gave them actionable gifts. That's such a beautiful thing to do.
Yeah, it really was. And it felt amazing, went way better than I expected. And I wouldn't say like, I'll like you said, I'll always be nervous. I'll always be nervous and want to prepare, but it's only because I take it seriously. But now I'm so much more comfortable doing it. I also learned, like you were talking about in Toastmasters, just being in that club, there's so many people with a variety of different goals. And now I'm working from home, and I've never really thought about, even all these Zoom meetings, and we're not always on camera, just to give you context, it's just voices and we're talking, and how nervous that makes people. And just thinking about all those meetings and all those times where people don't want to speak up. Because I think that's more realistic for especially a lot of people that may never be on a stage. They have no desire to professionally speak. They may never speak at a conference. The more realistic scenario is they need to speak up at work or in a meeting and things like that. So what kind of advice or tips can you give those types of people? Because I didn't realize how much of a fear it is until I kind of got on this current team, and I realized how hesitant people are to speak up in meetings. And literally, there are people in my Toastmasters club, that's their only goal. They have no desire to speak publicly anywhere. They just want to be more comfortable speaking up at work.
Yeah, which is a professional stage.
It is.
Right? It is like it's all the world's a stage. That is a professional stage, and you are a professional speaker because you get paid money by your job to use words and share ideas and drive people to action. So that is a professional stage. So all those feelings that come up are normal. It's okay. Don't try to get rid of them, because to get rid of them is to get rid of the human factor. So for that, the best thing you can do is say the words out loud. before you say them at that meeting or at that presentation, like to have rehearsed it. And that doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of memorization, because memorization, we've seen it, the person shows up, it doesn't even look like them. They look like some kind of a robot. And heaven forbid they lose their place. Like that's so painful, right? That is unintentional audience abuse. Like your audience is in pain because all they want to do is like just go up and give you a hug. Like it's going to be okay. To practice to say the words out loud is to several things happen. This is why what I call it saying words to the birds. I go outside and I practice my speeches outside, and it's usually only the birds that are at the park anyway. But what happens is the reason why speaking is difficult is because there is a disconnect between the ideas and the words that the mind is creating, that the mouth now has to create a form and a shape to get them out, while the ears are listening to judge you for what you've said. And all that static starts to collect in the mind. And suddenly we lose track of our thoughts and we're judging ourselves so much. So to remove that part of it, to get the brain to calm down so you can be present in that moment and confident in the words that you're using, that's why we want to say the words out loud. And to be open and okay with saying the words slightly different every single time. So if you've got a meeting coming up where you know you're going to have to speak about something, is to carve out some time before, preferably the day or two before, to start practicing those words out loud and saying them. And one thing that we worked on for your presentation is that morning when you wake up, the first thing you want to do is, well, brush your teeth and then say the words out loud. And then about an hour before the meeting itself, or in your case, the presentation, is you say the words out loud again. And then you show up to that meeting or to that presentation and you know that your chance is coming. You've got your tee up to it, and then you say those words out loud. That to me is preparation. And preparation and taking your job, as you so many times have said, like I take it seriously. I do this intentionally. You will show up as a better communicator because you've said these words. You're not hearing them for the first time. You don't have that static in your head that's judging you that way. You're probably judging you for different reasons, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, say the words out loud. It's going to make so many things that much easier.
Yeah, that's so true. And I didn't think about how there's so many great ideas, so many thoughts from coworkers where people are just not expressing them, which is sad because it's just sometimes they have a fear of speaking up in meetings. I did not know it was that bad until I got in this more online scenario. Because at work, you can, when I was working in the office, I could see people, and maybe it was easier. I don't know. It seems different with just the online atmosphere. And we also talked about, the difference with doing a Zoom presentation and not being in person, how different it is. And you really have to prepare. It's a very different experience.
Yeah. Again, it's a different kind of stage, right? They're all the stages that we take. The virtual stage is a stage. So how you deliver and how you present is different than how you do it at a boardroom, how you do it at a networking event, how you do it at a keynote. Like there's nuances to it. I think first and foremost is turn your camera on. It's okay. Yeah. There's so many meetings I've been to. We're like, oh, it's early in the morning and I'm just not going to turn my camera on. That so much is lost because from the mind tracking and seeing what's happening, I already can't see, like 2/3 of your body. And so much comes through in body language, which is why when you look at my camera setup and your camera setup, like we're sitting up a little bit higher, I'm sitting on the edge of my chair. I'm even able to stand up. Like if you have a chance to be able to stand, like now we're starting to move as we do in real time.
Yeah.
Having that camera set up to where it's something that if you're going to change anything in the virtual realm, do these two things. When you're listening to the audience is to look at your screen. And when you speak into the camera. Just make that change itself and you'll have a greater connection with your audience because now I'm looking at you, I'm having a conversation with you. When I'm done and my audience responds to it, now I look at my audience. So make those two changes and you'll be a better communicator virtually. but you got to turn your camera on to make that happen.
Oh, but I like that. I like that tip. I didn't realize that until recently. I started doing YouTube, and yeah, I have to look into the camera to make eye contact, and you have to do it from time to time. Well, would you like to tell us about
Yeah.
maybe a favorite speech that you've ever given? I know you had some opportunities. You did some big events last year. Like, would just name or tell us about one of your favorite ones?
One of my favorite stories to tell, it's actually it's a networking story, because people have a tendency to talk about what they do, and what's missing is why they do what they do. So it was at a chamber event, and networking, there's there's a lot of judging that happens, right? And oftentimes we judge ourselves more harshly, but it's human nature. It's why we've been able to survive. We judge. So I'm sitting at this speed judging event, and my job is to sit, and every so many minutes a new person comes in and sits in front of me. And in this one case, as this gentleman's walking over, I instantly judge him. Right? I judge him for the way that he walks. I judge him for the way that he's dressed. I judge the way that he sits down. And my judge jury come in with the verdict of, this guy's a cop. He's got to be a cop. And as soon as he sits down, he leans across the table in the most inviting way, shakes my hand. He says, "Hi, my name is Sam. I'm a financial planner." I was like, "God, I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm a horrible person. Like, I just judge this guy as a cop." And he's like, "My name is Sam. I'm a financial planner. What do you do?" And I was like, "Sam, before we get into what I do, I'd really like to know, why are you a financial planner?" And Sam leans back in his chair and he's like, "Oh, I love telling this story. You see, I used to be a cop." And I was like, "I knew it. But he proceeds to share a story with me of a moment in time where something happened to him, the transformation that it had and the impact that it had, which is why he is no longer a police officer and he's now a financial planner. I was like, "That's a great story. You should tell that story when you go networking." And he's like, "Really? I can do that?" I was like, "Yes." And this is how it goes. And this is a great thing to do in networking, is when somebody asks you, "What do you do?" There's a lot of options, but this is one thing, is to ask a clarifying question. So when Sam goes networking, so let's you be the networker, I'll be Sam. So Sandra, ask me, what do I do?
What do you do?
Thank you so much for asking. It's a great question. Do you know the number one reason why police get called to domestic disputes?
Violence, fights.
It's arguing over money is the number one reason why police get called. And as a police officer, I was showing up to all of these domestic disputes, and it was really frustrating because I just felt like I'm showing up too late. And then one day I'm sitting with my financial planner, and we're going through my finances, and I'm being challenged because I don't understand all the financial things. I'm actually getting a bit frustrated with my financial planner. And finally it just hits me. I was like, "Oh my God, I shouldn't be a financial plan. I shouldn't be a cop. I should be a financial planner." They have a chance to come in and help people. And she's like, so it was in that moment I decided, and I started studying to become a financial planner. I passed all the tests. I quit being a police officer. And now my entire focus is I teach financial literacy, and I help families create financial stability so they don't need to argue over money. And that way the police are not going to get called into the situation. So that's why I'm a financial planner. It's a powerful story.
Yeah.
You know, like what are some things about Sam that you like about Sam?
He seems empathetic. He's on the preventative side rather than the after side. He's driven by a real passion. It's not just, he's not driven by money, right? Which I think a lot of people think of for financial planners.
Yeah. In the world, there's so many people who do your job. They do exactly what you do. Yes. But there's only one you. And there's only your story as to why you do what you do. So if you want to separate yourself from everybody else, you need to share your why. Because from Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you do; they buy why you do what you do. And for anybody that has a career and something that you're passionate about, when you have the chance, is to share that why. Why do you do what you do? And you'll find yourself making greater connections.
That's so good. Yeah, so I went to a small business expo not too long ago, and they did those speed networking rounds. It was terrible. I mean, for me personally, it was just tough to get through talking to that many different people,
Hmm.
tiny little shallow conversations. And it's interesting. There's even one guy, he had a really great story and business name. And then, I can't remember, he just ruined it a little bit at the end where he said something like, I was like, oh, I love your business and the name of it, and maybe we could talk after this. He said something like, do you know somebody? Do you know somebody who needs my services? I'm like, right now? Like, no, I don't. Like he gave this really good spiel and it was
Yeah.
really memorable. I think he named his business, I was like, after some culinary term, but it was like a life
Mm.
coaching business. But he used to be a chef before he got into life coaching and kind of all tied together.
Wow.
But yeah.
Yeah. Because he made it personal, he made it connective, and then suddenly he pivoted to salesy. And
Yeah.
that's the icky portion of it. In networking, it's you have to invest in something as a financial planner. You'll love this. You need to invest in relationship equity. And you need to make little investments in there long before you start to try to make withdrawals, right? He made a tiny investment in relationship equity, and suddenly he's trying to make this huge withdrawal, right? And he's going into debt doing it. And you're like, I don't feel like lending you any kind of more equity.
Yeah, exactly. Because after that, I was thinking, oh, I have his card. We should like get coffee or meet up because it was a local
Hmm.
business expo, so it was very reasonable. You can meet people, in
Yep.
real life after the event. But yeah, the speed networking was a bit icky, I felt.
Yep. It's because it goes so fast. So the objective really is not to try to sell anybody anything except an opportunity for a relationship. That's the only thing you should be selling at a speed networking event is a chance for that follow-on conversation. Because he did that great in the beginning. And all he
Yes.
had to do is like I'd love to catch you for coffee. Like let's which is from a financial dating standpoint, but not financial, from professional dating standpoint, business dating. If you go to a networking event, step one is like the blind date, which is the networking event. And then from there, like, oh, I have a little connection. The next step after that is we should have coffee. Like, oh, hey, let's have coffee. If we have coffee and it goes really well, the next step is lunch. Like we should do lunch. You're going to do business with someone like, we really need to do dinner,
Ooh.
because now it has taken on more serious. Like if we're staying in a constant state of coffee, like we're just coffee, then we're just dating. If we have lunch, there's a possibility that we may have a chance. Oh, business could be on the horizon. As soon as dinner gets invited, like either we've done business and we're celebrating by doing dinner, or I want to take you to dinner because I want to do business with you.
Oh, I like that. That's really good advice. Because I have a lot of one-offs, and some of them
Yep.
graduate to like maybe another meeting, but it's that nurturing it even more. And
Hmm.
that's really good advice. And it's kind of like
Yeah.
what people are doing on LinkedIn. That's what some people don't get. It's little deposits. You're trying to get people to trust you, like what you're saying,
Hmm.
build a rapport. But when people are like, DM me, or kind of ruin their beautiful post, it's like, oh my gosh, that was like a post. Well, it was funny. Someone did a post about their kid graduating from college. It was a really beautiful post with pictures. And then at the end, it was like a pitch to like, contact her about her services. No.
All that pre-work.
Oh, but I love that story. That's a great, I got to remember that next time I go to one of those networking events, because that's what I was a little bit lost for. People will, I would connect, we would shuffle and people would just kind of dominate the conversation. They'd be like, well, what do you do? And I'd be done saying it. So I was trying to be quick and expedient. We really only had, I think, 2 minutes. So it was really
Hmm.
like, you talk a minute, they talk a minute. But then if that
Yeah.
person talks like the 2 minutes, then we're up, right?
Yeah. It's also what you're answering with, because most people will state the name of their business, the industry that they're in, and something else. But it's not memorable, which is why
Right.
I like to ask a clarifying question, because then I also have a chance to understand them, and they have a chance to talk, which gets them thinking. So when somebody's like, "What do you do?" You can ask a question like, when it comes to financial planning, what do you think the most important thing is? I'm just riffing here, right? And they're like, make sure you buy stocks. Like, that's a good start. It's a good start. When I work with my clients, that is a conversation that I have with them, is like, what is most important to them? What do they understand? And then we can take it from there. So never at any point did I say, I'm a financial planner. I put it into the form of sort of like when I start having conversations with my clients, those are the kinds of questions that I ask them. right? What's most important to you when it comes to financial freedom? Well, actually, this is in your presentation, right? Is what is your definition of financial freedom? Just ask that question and just see what they
Oh,
say.
that would be
They're
really
gonna,
good. I do like that. I got to
they're
see
gonna
that. Yeah.
yeah, they're
Because
back
it gets them
pocket.
talking and it gets them thinking about it, and it's not so boring. Because the problem is when you just do the name industry, it's like, oh, well, we're done, and you don't know if they really get what you're saying or know anything about you, and then they want to talk, right?
That's what it is. They're already. The reason why most people forget other people's names is because you're busy thinking of how you're going to say your name. So when you get that network event, you're like, my name is Sandra Park. I'm a financial coach. I work with women in STEM. I'm a keynote speaker. What do you do? They've not heard any of that because they're waiting for their chance to speak. So by asking a clarifying question, you're giving them a chance to speak, but they're answering a question that gives you information.
Yeah, I really like that. That's so true. I heard the other day the person who asks the question has control of the conversation. So when you ask the question, yeah, so right.
Is that where you listen to Chris Voss
Oh,
with
I
Black
think it was
Swan?
something else. No, I think it was something else. Is
No.
it the guy who wrote the negotiation book?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Never split the
it's so
difference.
funny. I think it's just okay. I know other people, they rave and rave about that book, and like I don't know, they're like I have it on audio and I've listened to it twice, and it just none of it sticks out to me very much. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Yeah.
There's some things about that I like that I put into practice. There's some stuff he talks about is really logical. I'm like, oh, that's just yeah, it makes total sense.
Yeah, I'll have to try listening to it another time. Well, we're over time a little bit. I don't want to take too much of your time. Well, before we leave, let people know how they can find you. Besides LinkedIn,
Yeah.
obviously, you're on LinkedIn if the people are watching the replay.
Yep. Yeah, I do all of my posting of my content and build connections and relationships via LinkedIn. So you can find me here. Also, our website is articulatedintelligence.com, articulated-intelligence.com. And connect with me, send me a message on LinkedIn, and also let me know how it is that I can support you.
Oh,
So that's probably the easiest way. Let's just keep it to the LI, LinkedIn.
yeah. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for coming as well. Sandra, thanks so much for having me on your podcast. It's been a joy.
Thank you for listening to the episode today. It really means so much to me. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe so that you don't miss any other future episodes. And even better, if you could send it on to someone else or also leave a review. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or my website. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.